All right, welcome back from the break. Like I said earlier, we will be taking you through that program where we had the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab, Ahmed, talk about the SFTAS program, as well as the World Bank Country Director, Shubham, Chaudhuri. And, some state governors, in fact, many state governors were there, at least a few of them. The governor of Ebonyi State, governor of Edo State, who is the chair of SFTAS at the NGF, the Nigerian Governors Forum. The governor of Sokoto State was there. The governor of Kebbi State was there. The governor of Jigawa State was also there. Most of these governors were there. Why? Some of them, went home with awards because they've been able to improve their state on certain parameters which the World Bank assessed them on. But I think enough of it for now. Just take a look at what transpired.
I'm really pleased to be here this evening to welcome all participants, especially Their Excellencies the Executive Governors, to this historic event, specially convened to celebrate the success of the State's Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program for Results, SFTAS, and also an award, a presentation of award ceremony to the best performing states in the successive annual assessments conducted over the last 3 years of SFTAS existence. I'm particularly delighted to note that since inception, the program, which enjoys a very high level of political visibility, has continued steadily with strong performance and demonstrable high level of ownership by states and non-state actors, especially the civil society and the media. As you may be aware, ladies and gentlemen, the primary objective of the program is to instill a common set of fiscal behavior and standards, as well as to facilitate the widespread adoption of good practices across the states while respecting their fiscal autonomy. These good practices include the preparation of citizen-based budgets, timely preparation and publication of annual budgets and audited financial statements, as well as the adoption of National Chart of Accounts, among other disbursement-linked indicators. There is no gainsaying the fact that over the years, SFTAS has achieved its set objectives and recorded significant milestones in improved fiscal transparency and accountability. It has also helped to increase domestic revenue mobilization, as well as increase efficiency in public spending and strengthen debt management in line with imbibed ideals that have been set in the SFTAS. Indeed, these important milestones call for celebration, and we're here tonight celebrating key stakeholders who gave their best so that the program could reach this contestable status of being one of the country's most laudable and enduring fiscal reforms initiated under the leadership of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari with the support of the World Bank. It is my strong belief that with the resounding success recorded, especially the wholesale adoption of the SFTAS Charter by all of the 36 states here present, the program ideals already entrenched in the fiscal governance space at subnational levels will continue to enjoy a place of pride in the conduct of fiscal governance, even in the absence of any further fiscal incentives. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to inform you that in the next few weeks, your state will receive the last tranche of performance-based grants, the 1 billion naira withheld by the central bank through naira exchange deficit. This will bring to a close the performance for results given the technical, but even though the technical assistance component will continue to be delivered by implementing agencies and partners till June 2023, when the program will finally wind down and close. Let me stress that the continuous support and commitment of stakeholders, particularly the legislature and the civil society organizations at state level, are most needed in the last year of the program implementation to deepen the ongoing reforms and to build structures that will entrench the ideals of SFTAS long after the payment of performance grants has ceased. At this juncture, I must also commend all critical stakeholders involved in program implementation for their untiring efforts towards the successful implementation of the program so far. In particular, the program coordination unit, the PCU management team, the consultants and supporting staff that have been quite wonderful in terms of the efficiency and the coordination of the program's activities. The World Bank task team for the technical support, the implementing agencies and partners deserves accolade as well for providing technical assistance to states, which resulted in higher performance by the states. And finally, of course, the states themselves for their resilience, their continuous support and participation in this program. In particular, I want to congratulate the states that received awards for outstanding performance in various direct linked indicators. I believe that the award will spur you to further strive towards deepening and mainstreaming the reforms in your respective states.
The SFTAS program was one of a kind in design and reach. It accommodated our heterogeneity as states by integrating scalability in the disbursement-linked results, DLRs, design and availing us technical assistance in building our capacity to implement associated reforms. Together, we have increased citizens' participation in governance, improved fiscal transparency and accountability by publishing our fiscal documents in appropriate standards. Similarly, we have legislated requisite laws to provide an enabling legal framework to reform processes, procedures, and policies. Examples are the debt management laws, public procurement laws, audit laws, and consolidated revenue codes. Other noteworthy reforms include a reduction in our domestic expenditure areas, improved debt sustainability ratios, and the adoption of e-procurement systems to deliver efficiency and value for money in government expenditure. The financing of over $1.2 billion in disbursement to states thus far has been timely in ameliorating the fiscal constraint occasioned by increasing expenditure needs, COVID-19 pandemic, and the non-remittances of revenue or shortfall in remittances of revenue by NMPC to the Federation account following the rising subsidy payments and crude oil theft. Understanding the need to also show up our domestic revenues, we have undertaken various reforms that have seen our IGR grow over the years. Even so, we plan to aggressively pursue new inroads, including tax policies, legislation, property tax, technology adoption, strengthening the exchange of information, executing targeted incentive schemes, and tax for service initiative, among others. Since January 2022, in the absence of performance grant, we continued to implement associated reforms, and within the program's specified timelines. This includes the publication of our quarterly budget implementation reports and the audited financial statements, for example, for the fiscal year 2021 has been done. To express formally our resolve to sustain the ideals of the program, the forum also signed a sustainability charter on 17th August 2022. In furtherance to the commitment in the charter that we will subject ourselves to annual assessments after the program, we will be willing to work with our partners and relevant stakeholders in conducting the very first non-grant backed assessment in 2023. The NGF Secretariat and our state officials will be available to discuss the modalities and timing that will work best in ensuring the assessment remains credible and performance-driven. Understanding the importance of sustaining capacity, the forum also plans to establish a fund to sustain capacity building support beyond SFTAS technical assistance funding. We hope to solicit contribution from members and partners accordingly in making this a reality. Today, we celebrate everyone, our this or not, because I know every state made a genuine effort to implement as many reforms as possible. As we celebrate, let us not lose sight of the journey to sustainability, the charter we have signed up to, and more importantly, the conviction to continuously do right by our citizens. At this point, I would like, on behalf of all of us, thank and acknowledge President Muhammadu Buhari, the Vice President also and Chairman of NEC, for the leadership they provided where the National Economic Council and, in fact, the National Economic Management have been more inclusive and more transparent. That over the last several years, budget is presented and passed by the National Assembly is a step that has been complimented by our National Assembly, and they also deserve commendation. Of course, all this couldn't have been possible by the very, very strong team led by the Honorable Minister of Finance and the Permanent Secretary, and indeed all members of their team. Last but not the least on this, I must not forget to appreciate the former chairman of this forum, Governor John Kayode Fayemi, and the DG of the forum and secretariat, who have very, very commendably led support to states, put a technical assistance program in place where all states are supported. Of course, I couldn't conclude without thanking Shubham, Chaudhuri, and his team at the World Bank, and indeed members of the Open Governance Partnership. This has been a partnership that has been mutually rewarding us.
Former Governor of Ekiti State, Honorable Minister, Permanent Secretary, Finance, DG Okauru, DG DMO, friends. It's a real privilege for me to be here this evening with all of you to celebrate what I can honestly say is the flagship program that we are honored to support here in Nigeria, and SFTAS. The information about SFTAS, the record of SFTAS is spreading all across the World Bank. Let me just say why it is that I see this as a flagship, we all see this as a flagship program. First and foremost, I think the degree to which this has truly been government-owned and run. And I'm looking here at Governor Obaseki of Edo State, who became the NGF subcommittee head on SFTAS and drove this program. I think it was obviously Governor Fayemi and the support and from the Honorable Minister of Finance that this was a grant that would still could keep giving in terms of Christmas gifts, even in its fourth year. But also I think it's because, this program gets at the heart of fundamental aspect of governance in Nigeria as a federation, which is a mutual accountability relationship between the federal and the states, in a way which the terms of which are clear. The name of the program talks about accountability and transparency, but the design of the program also was about accountability and transparency. Let me give you my first encounter with SFTAS when I arrived in Nigeria in September of 2019. My third day here, I was at an Wednesday evening meeting of the NGF, where the first results were shared with all the excellencies about which states had done what was needed to be eligible to participate in 2019, in the 2019 program. And I remember, I think it was 24 states were eligible, 12 were not, had not met the deadlines. And so some of the governors from those 12 states started saying, no, we didn't know about this, we need a bit more time, we have to, and I was getting prepared to make the case for how, we had to stick to, conditions that had been explained. But before I could say anything, the other governors in the room said, no, we all knew the rules, this was explained, and we have to live by them. And I think that was a fundamental, to me, that was music. Usually, I'm having to be the one saying, okay, these were the rules. This was completely owned by the governors as a forum, and you saw it the next year. You will see in terms of the performance at the state level, initially it was a bit slow taking up, but then it has really blossomed to where every state has really embraced this program. I happen to think that states are where the action is. That's where the name of our SFTAS successor comes from, State Action on Business Enabling Reforms. But it's truly because in terms of most of what Nigeria's people depend on and look to from government is delivered by the states. And the governors are the ones who are closest to the people. So a program where the federal and the states can hold each other accountable and in turn be accountable to citizens, I think that's the heart of SFTAS, and we've started emulating that design through all the other areas. Fiscal management is the starting point, but then it's business enabling reforms, it's basic service delivery. I hope that this can become a model for lots of other programs. So it truly is a privilege that we've been able to be part of it. And I still marvel at the fact that I think Nigeria is the only country where the political principals, the elected leaders, all the governors know what a DLI is. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to the program. This is Moneyline with me, Nancy.
So we really have to keep thinking out of the box about how to get money to the least accessible in our society.
Everything has to be re-examined in our economy, in our health system.
We are also ensuring that government does not continue to manage this refinery, because government is not really equipped to manage refinery.
We need to come forward and do something different, so that we move from the situation of looking at things from purely a consumptive approach to a productive environment.
The government and the people need to really agree on the need for a departure from business as usual.
We are now on the process of recovery. It is what I call a bumpy journey to an uncertain destination.
This is Moneyline with me, Nancy. Naji, it's so nice to know that you're joining us again today.
So we'll be having at least the next 20 to 25 minutes. But just like the Honorable Minister of Finance did state earlier, and from what the World Bank Country Director has stated, and also what the National Program Director just stated a few seconds ago, we've seen that from 2018 to 2021, that states have been assessed against the benchmark that was shown to us earlier. Benchmark of fiscal transparency, the benchmark of increased revenue mobilization, the benchmark of efficiency in public expenditure, and strengthened debt management. This panel will further espouse on that, and let's see how most of the states achieved that. So I'll be starting this panel with my first question. Of course, the SFTAS chair, NGF. So, Governor, this question is for you. As the chairman of the NGF SFTAS committee, I know you played a very vital role. Could you provide for me your feedback on the impact of SFTAS in your state? What has also been the program positive outcomes? Apart from what Mr. Ali said earlier, I really want you to crunch out the details because we saw that on the slide. And what have really been the toughest challenges? Because we are here tonight celebrating, but I guess that the governors also would tell us what the challenges are, and how can these results be sustained in the absence of a monetary incentive for the program. Without a Christmas hamper, can this program be sustained, particularly with the upcoming election in the next few months? So, Governor, shoot.
Thank you very much. First, let me start by thanking the country director of the World Bank, Shubham, and his team, and also the PCU team at the Ministry of Finance and the Accountant General's office. Tonight we are celebrating, but this celebration would not have been possible but for the foresight and doggedness and commitment by a whole team of people, patriots across the divide, from the Governors Forum, where, as you know, the Governors Forum is made up of governors from different political parties, through the federal. SFTAS has been a turning point in terms of fiscal management in Nigeria. And I hope that the noise will be made loud. Because the sense citizens get is that, oh, governors are just there, there's no transparency, they just treat their public finances the way they like. But you have seen through SFTAS that today, you can count the number of states that have not passed their budgets this year. Even when most of them, are facing elections. You can see from the records how many states don't publish their accounts, their statement of accounts, before the end of the first quarter. In fact, many states today are more efficient than many private companies in this country in terms of rendering accounts. What have we achieved? There is a lot more confidence. I believe that what we've done in the last 2-3 years has gone a long way in strengthening our democracies. Today, governors are more on their ball when it comes to their financing. You can ask any governor there; they'll tell you, this is how much we're expecting because we have fulfilled X, Y, Z, DLIs, the linked indicators that require that they will require to have done before the funding comes in. How do we sustain these gains? From what you heard today, on our own as a body, the Governors Forum have put in place mechanisms. We have agreed and we have signed a charter amongst ourselves that we should be held liable and accountable to continue to produce the sort of information that we produced under the grants, whether it's going to be cash backed or not. In fact, we've also said that we're going to contribute funds from our own resources and our partners to ensure that we have a technical services structure which we evolved during SFTAS to continue to monitor states and help and assist states to make sure that they continue to sustain what the gains we have gotten from SFTAS.
Okay, thank you very much, Governor. Thank you. Let me come to the DG of the Debt Management Office. And I think it will be right for me to start on the premise of how the DMO has been working with states, really, on debt management. I do know that the states will come to you when they want to seek external financing. Nothing concerns the DMO with like capital market raising and all of that. So I would like you to really speak about that. Let me just give you 1 minute to speak about that, and I'll come back to you again.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, distinguished gentlemen and ladies, and to the World Bank, thank you for inviting me to this function. I think, Nancy, what I'd like to say about the program, yes, one part of the work we do is work with states when they're trying to raise capital. But for the event that we have today and for the statistics that have been presented, let me just give a bit of history of what collectively we have been able to achieve. So at the time the DMO was set up, really, the focus was on the federal debt. Okay, so what we were publishing and what data we had and legislations were purely at the federal level. Okay, so at some point we realized as an institution that really debt is debt of the nation, not debt only of the federal government of Nigeria. So we started working with the states on a best effort basis, on a voluntary basis, without funding, to sort of migrate some of the things we have learned, how to record your debt, you know, and at least make sure you know what your debt stock is. You know, that's the starting point for avoiding challenges with debt, knowing what your debt stock is, and then you migrate to the other stages. But that was difficult. Like I said, there wasn't adequate funding. There wasn't a consensus, as it were, so we're working bilateral with the states, and that was not easy to do. So one of the very great things that SFTAS provided is a platform to significantly upscale what we're doing. And the fact that all the parties, the state governments, the Ministry of Finance, were all interested in getting this done made it easy to achieve. So collectively now, whereas it used to be a bit difficult to get the debt data from states and publish, because if you check our debt data, you see it has the state governments and the FCT. Before, some may be 1 year late, you know, compared to the period of publication. But with SFTAS, because everybody was on board, the relevant trainings were given, and now we include all the debts of the states, but they are more current than they used to be. So beyond that, we've also been able to sort of share with them some of the things that we have learned over the years, because this is one country. Total public debt is total debt, not just of the FGN. From some of the presentations that you will see, you've seen that they have passed their laws as well on borrowing, because without saying too much, borrowing has to be regulated and operated under guidelines. Okay, but what is also very unique about SFTAS, really outstanding about SFTAS, is this time something we have not worked with the state governments on. We have migrated to doing debt sustainability analysis as well as debt management strategy, which is something we haven't done before. And with that in place, as His Excellency the Governor said, these are things that are done routinely, annually or every 3 years or every 4 years. So the continuity of that would help the sustainability of the total public debt.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, DG. I'll come back to you in a few, G. I would like you to bring in your own perspectives in the aspect of, we know that the SFTAS program focuses on fiscal transparency that has incorporated our open government partnership commitments. What impact do you think that these results that we've had so far have on the civil society's role to advance fiscal discipline?
Yeah, thanks for your question. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to sit on this panel. I would say that the SFTAS program has greatly enhanced the quality of our work.
Okay.
As you know, with budgets, we're a civic tech organization that uses digital tools to improve budget literacy, budget access, and empower non-state actors or accountability actors to hold government accountable. And for you to hold government accountable, you need to be informed. So the SFTAS program has empowered us to sort of make informed advocacy. If you look at, for the State of States, which is our flagship program, as of 2015, we could do very little as regards, assessing the quality of expenditure and the sort of revenue inflows to states. We just relied on the budget figures for a few states that were available. But I can tell you that for last year, as of July, and they're doing this better than the federal government, as of July 31st last year, we had the 36, the audit report, audited financial statements for the 36 states. And that, empowered us to do a critical analysis of sort of the fiscal position of states. If you look at the budget literacy and budget access arm of things, we like to simplify data, make it easy for non-state actors, citizens, persons in a remote community to be able to relate with governance. So if you pick up a budget, for instance, how does that impact on, have commensurate impact on your livelihood? And we've been able to do that and generate a new set of active citizens across several communities in the Federation using data coming from these audited financial statements. If you look at certain sunshine laws like the Fiscal Responsibility Act, the Public Procurement Act, these are legal frameworks that before the advent of SFTAS, the civil society has, they had been at the forefront of the advocacies for states to implement these laws to ensure fiscal responsibility at that level. But since the advent of SFTAS, we saw that although incentivized, right, the states, signed up to these laws, on the public procurement arm of things. I mean, for the public procurement law, it sort of has enhanced the value for money. Citizens are able to track government contracts on portals. However, there are challenges as to the uptake, right? There's improved transparency. There's an issue with the utilization and enforcement. We've had very few success stories with the utilization of data, but time will not permit me to cite a couple of examples. But on the issue of enforcement, we still see that there are considerable gaps. Different players within the accountability value chain need to play their roles. For instance, if you look at the public account committees in the state houses of assembly, you see that they do very little with the reports, with the audit reports, that emanate at the end of the day. So I'd like to leave it here.
Okay, thank you very much. The question around how these results that we've seen can be sustained in the absence of a monetary incentive for the program, particularly with the upcoming election in the next few months, that we will have new set of governors. I think about 18 sets of new governors will come in. So how will that be sustained as the chair of SFTAS?
Okay, Tracy, there are 4 key aspects of SFTAS, and let's look at achievements along those 4 aspects and see how we can sustain each. First, fiscal transparency and accountability. Says, we want you to tell your citizens how you're going to spend your money. So before you go to, you put out your budgets, consult with your citizens. Let their priorities be reflected in the budgets you put out. That is 1. 2, ensure that your accounts, so statement accounts, are published before a certain period in the new year so that people know how you spent that money in the budget. I am saying those 2 have largely being achieved by all 36 states. And as budgeted said, they now have the data on portals. How do we sustain that? Very difficult going forward to have states who haven't started this form of, putting out this quality and quantity of information to stop. But to encourage them, we as a body, the Governors Forum, have signed a charter amongst ourselves that this will continue. The second is about domestic revenue mobilization. We agreed on SFTAS and with the support of the World Bank on certain measures, how enumerations will be done, household enumerations, trying to ensure that land administration is better, and on and on and on. And you can see the incentives that were given in the early years to help states push for higher revenues. And not just increasing taxes, but just ensuring that you bring more people into the tax nets. And you don't have to give states, continue to give them money for them to, to look for ways to continue to increase revenues. So that will be sustained. The other issue about public expenditure, how do you ensure that you get value for money? So we've issued laws, procurement laws, and there's an e-procurement platform, which most states have adopted. Edo has, and we know that there's been peer learnings from, us states. So a few states have come to Edo to see what they've done with their procurement laws and procurement processes. And we've gone to a few other states to learn the same. So even without these monetary incentives, we are currently learning from each other and sustaining because we can see the benefits in governance. And lastly, the DG of the DMO just has explained to us, how we have achieved enough visibility in sustaining our debts and controlling the level of borrowings by the states. So how do we sustain all of that? Because we will continue to do it. We will put our money behind this, and we've signed the charter amongst ourselves.
Even when the new governors come in?
Well, with the new governors, they're so lucky because there's already a framework for them to kick into.
Okay, all right. So DGDMO, the question will be to you now, how the DMO will assist states in better diversifying their debt portfolios, because Governor Basaki, when he was a private sector person, he used to say so much about capital market borrowing as an alternative to diversifying states' debt portfolio. We know for states like Ekiti, Lagos, Edo State, Delta, Yobe, Oshu, they were among the states that raised funds from the capital market. But how will the DMO assist states in diversifying their debt portfolios, ensuring also that they obtain the best terms and tenor for deficit financing while maintaining also a debt sustainability level? New governors are coming in so that they don't say, oh, we met too much debt and we are paying back, we don't have so much money for capital expenditure.
Okay. Nancy, that's a lot of questions, but I'll try to answer all of them as quickly as I can. I know that's your area of expertise. So let me quickly start. As you know, the states, just like the federal, they raise funds in the domestic market, some from banks, direct loans from banks. Some are very active as well. Well, let me say just active, not very, in the capital market. What we have done as a DMO, so the DMO doesn't really go to banks to take bilateral loans in the domestic market, but we issue various securities, different types, and we issue them for different tenors. The whole idea is that for us it is part of sustainability of the public debt, ensuring that, but it's also to create precedents which the states can ride on to raise monies. So I'm trying to avoid the strong languages, but when we issue a sukuk, for instance, it means any state government can issue sukuk, and I know at least 2 states, after we issued the 3rd one, started working, and I think some have issued. So you go there and do all the investor education, do all the documentation, so people are aware, then the states can then follow. The same thing for tenor. Once we have a tenor, that becomes a benchmark. Because really, because we are the sovereign at the FGN level, any investor in the bond of a state will use that sovereign as a benchmark. Is there a 10-year federal government bond around? If Katina wants to issue a bond, what is the rate on the 10-year federal government bond? Then they price that bond again. So it's a matter of setting precedents, doing a lot of investor education for them to borrow. So you know we have both wholesale products and retail products. Then we have the Sukuk and green bonds, which you know have done very well. In terms of negotiation, so operating in the capital market, issuing bonds, that's a function of the market. Those rates will be determined by the market, but there are benchmarks already that the federal government has set. When it is external, obviously, as you know, with the laws, it's the federal that borrows and then on lends to the state against, you know, an agreement that we will deduct money from them to service the loan. So we negotiate the best terms. So we're negotiating for ourselves and negotiating for the states as well on those external loans. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, DG. Idiobong, I don't know if you picked something when Governor Baseki was speaking, and he did say that states now are more fiscally prudent than even the private sector. Do you agree with that?
As fiscally responsible as the private sector.
As fiscally responsible. Okay, so I would allow you to respond to that, and also add, from your work and some other of your colleagues, what actions do you really believe are necessary to further deepen and strengthen your role?
Okay, so I don't know if I can make a definite statement on Governor Obaseki's claim, but to my question, for civil society, I think we need to organize, specialize, and prioritize around specific thematic areas within the governance and public financial management sort of value chain. If you pick an audit, there's a PLSI in the room that is fantastic at audit. We need at least 36 of them across the 36 states of the Federation so that they can sort of leverage on certain legislations in place. I mean, at the subnational level now, there are audit laws in place that grant operational and financial autonomy to the state and local government accountant generals. How can civil society players leverage on those laws to sort of, participate in the accountability process? If you pick budget literacy, domestic resource mobilization, across those several themes, we need to be able to develop capacity to first understand the data, the issues, and then engage. Also, we need to mobilize, rally around a certain cause. If I pick an advocacy, that was prime in, I think it was 2020 or 2021, around the host communities component of the petroleum industry bill, there were several sort of submissions to the National Assembly. While some were advocating for a 5%, of OPEX going to host communities, some were advocating for 10%, some others were advocating for 20%. So there was no common sort of goal around that particular advocacy ask. So we need to collaborate more. We need to organize behind an idea, and I think that we'll be able to make reasonable impact if we're able to do that better.
Okay, thank you.
All right, welcome back. That's it. It's a wrap for today's show. Thank you all for joining us. Like I always say, be the best you can be and be that change that you want to see. I am Nancy Nnaji. Bye.